a very important name to have on a day like this. It's the former Georgia quarterback, Jake Fromm. And obviously, Jake, let me begin with this. You know what it's like to win an SEC championship, and you know what it's like to get dramatic wins at Georgia. Have you ever seen anything, though, more dramatic than the way that win played out for the Dogs against Texas on Saturday, with Gunner stepping in and playing well and helping Georgia get to that victory, Carson coming back in, and I think you probably as a quarterback kind of understand what it must be like try to hand the ball off if your arm's not working. That's just such an awe-inspiring effort from Beck in that situation. What did you make of the way in which Georgia got that SEC championship win on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a team that keeps fighting, doesn't give up, and just finds a way to win when they need it most. I mean, this was just an incredible victory all around. I think this defensive front showed just unbelievable resiliency. Last week when they played Georgia Tech and getting run on for 200-plus yards, and then holding Texas, I think, 30-something rush yards the entire football game. That's incredible. Man, I really absolutely hate it for Carson Beck to go down the way he did on a kind of end-to-half Hail Mary that really didn't have too much effect on the game with low probability, and to get hurt in that fashion, man, it's just absolutely terrible. And then in comes Gunner Stockton, who comes in down in that football game and comes back to win that football game. Absolutely incredible. And then Carson comes back, like you said, to hand the ball off for the game-winning touchdown. I've never seen anything like it. You cannot take SEC championships for granted. Man, this is such a huge accomplishment, a big feat, and it means a ton to everybody in that program.
So let me start with this. Beyond that, obviously, we just had a guest on a moment ago, Connor Riley, who was striking a little bit more of a hopeful tone about the Beck injury than I sort of assumed that might be said here. I don't know that if you've ever had the kind of elbow injury that Beck is dealing with, or any kind of relation to that whatsoever. I guess, do you have any insight into what Beck might be dealing with, and the various options that could be out there on the basis of whatever this actually is?
Yeah, I mean, it could be torn, it could be strained. Kind of talking about this kind of Tommy John UCL muscle that kind of runs down from our elbow to our hand, kind of in that forearm area. I have no idea the extent of it, man. I just know when you kind of get as a quarterback and as a thrower in that compromised position of, hey, he wasn't like just throwing a check down at 5 to 10 yards. No, I mean, he was launching a football 50, 60 yards down the field, giving it everything he has. I mean, that's a pretty compromising position. And I have no idea. I hadn't really kind of talked to anybody there around the program about, the optimism there. And I hope he hasn't played his last down as a Georgia Bulldog. But if he has, man, he was a good one and won a lot of football games.
Did you ever deal with any kind of elbow injury or anything like that? I don't guess at your time at Georgia, but even prior to that, any kind of issues or something like that?
I mean, I've had some tightness here and there kind of growing up, especially back in my younger days, pitching as a kid and travel ball baseball, overthrowing, but nothing to an extent of a strain, and especially anything like this.
So a travel baseball pitcher overusing his arm and overthrowing. I don't think I've ever heard that story before.
You've never heard that, right? Never heard that. So I hope they get that fixed, pitch limit, inning limit, whatever that is, because man, I think it's detrimental to development as a young man and a young thrower.
We've talked before about Gunner Stockton. I know how much respect you have for his game. What did you think of Gunner when he came in on Saturday? And obviously not perfect. I know he'd love to have that interception back, but also an unbelievable scoring drive to begin the third quarter. And honestly, holding on the football on that hit he took, I don't know that I've ever seen a harder hit in a game. It was really horrifying. And he just got right back up, had the football right there in his hand. That is a tough tough guy, for sure. What did you make of Gunner's overall performance?
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, kind of what do you expect a backup coming in on this kind of stage, an SEC championship down in this football game, against supposedly, one of, if not the best team in the country, the Texas Longhorns. Man, it just shows the competitive fire and the toughness out of Gunner throughout this whole game, and especially, in that overtime drive of holding on to that football. I can't sit here and honestly say that my body would have held on to that football, man. It kind of shows just how tough he is, how strong he is. And he went in there and he played his game. His game is going to look different than Carson Beck's game is. The offense is going to look a little bit different. It's going to look slightly more catered to him. And I can't wait to see what Bobo and the offense cooks up here to play whoever this winner is going to be. But man, it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting, and this is going to be a great debut for Gunner Stockton.
I want to ask you more about that here coming up. It's our Kroger Fresh Take with Jake Fromm here today on DawgNation Daily, and of course, you're getting ready for a great Christmas season. By the way, how great does our newly decorated Christmas tree look here? You can still see the Kroger logo, so we got all that figured out here, but a great way to sort of celebrate the Christmas season. And speaking of your own way to celebrate that, Kroger's got all the food you need. You want the greeting cards. You want all the great experience, the decor, everything else. Make this a wonderful holiday season for you and your family. Shop in-store at your local Kroger, online at Kroger.com. And remember, they got great options to take advantage of: free pickup, free grocery delivery, the Kroger Boost membership, a great way to do all of that. So make your Christmas and holiday season as convenient as you can make it with our friends from Kroger, online at Kroger.com or in-store today. So going back to your career for a moment, Jake, we all remember – season opener against Appalachian State. Obviously, you generate a lot of buzz during the offseason, but Jacob Eason was the starter. He gets hurt like right away, and you're inserted right into the game. How well did you – how comfortable were you with the offensive game plan when you had to be kind of just called into duty, obviously not knowing that was what you're going to be doing that day? Did you know – Did you know it? How comfortable were you with what you're going to be calling, what you're going to be asked to run? How comfortable were you on that? And then a week later, once you knew you were starting and kind of getting prepared against Notre Dame, which was your second game, how much different was that then for you?
Yeah, I want to start by saying that for me, graduating early in high school and coming in during that spring ball period was super beneficial for my development and being able and being ready to play when called upon later that fall. And then I also want to say that, that was completely new territory for me. I had been pretty much a starter my entire life growing up until that point. I had no idea what, a backup really did or does. That was I expected to play in that game versus I had no idea. My expectations were none. I had none. I just knew to be ready, know what the plan was, and be called upon and ready to play when it was my time. So kind of go in, you play, everything happened fast, and then for that Notre Dame game, and the overwhelming support that I got from my teammates really just helped me throughout that entire week. Got to know the plan, got to take reps, and went in with all the confidence in the world. So man, I expect that Gunner's probably a lot in that situation. Is getting a lot of support from his teammates because they know who he is, know the kind of guy he is, and know the competitor and the worker he is. So I expect the guys to rally around him and for him to feel all the confidence in the world going in to play this game for the winner of Notre Dame or Indiana.
So a couple of things on this, if you don't mind, because most of us just have no experience with this whatsoever. So Notre Dame game, that's your second game, that's your first official start. You kind of know it's going to be the start. They know you. Is this a situation where they just sort of hand you Jim Chaney's playbook that was your offensive coordinator at the time and say, hey, here's our offense, get ready to run it? Or is it a situation where they say, okay, well, here's what you like to do, here's what you're comfortable doing, and so therefore we're going to kind of build a game plan around sort of what you want to do? In other words, were you just sort of asked to run the offense, or did they create an offense for you that day?
Yeah, I would say at that time, basically that was kind of the offense, and we were running the offense. It was still relatively new in the system, and mine and Jacob's skill set were similar enough, for me to go in and operate. There wasn't like two different body types, where Gunner has this skill set of being a very seasoned runner in high school and shows a lot of those tools, out on paper and on Saturday as well. So they'll do a lot of that to kind of help him ease into this football game, get him some completions early. But for me, it was, hey, let's here it is. You've learned it up until this point, man. We're going to keep doing what we're going to do, and you're going to go help us win this football game.
So last thing for you, you kind of touched on this a little bit, but because they do have time, they have weeks before their game. that if they wanted to do something unique with Gunner, because Gunner, as you point out, Gunner and Carson are pretty different. If they want to do something unique with him, they do have time to do that. How much of that do you expect that Georgia will say, hey, here's a chance to catch our opponent, not really knowing what we're going to do, and so therefore, Mike Bobo's a creative guy. He's called, different kinds of offenses based on different personnel before. All of a sudden now you sort of build something a little bit different with Gunner now. How much of that do you expect Georgia will do?
Yeah, I'd say probably a 70-30 mix of 70% being, hey, this is our offense, man, this is what we do, and 30% being a couple packages and a couple different wrinkles for Gunner. I think this game's going to be, doesn't matter who you're playing, for Gunner, it's going to be about winning on first and second down so we get into a manageable third down situation. So what's the best way for us to win those games? Is it kind of run pass options and a lot of RPOs? Is it a lot of zone reads? Is it screen passes? Is it kind of advantage perimeter throws? Let's win on early downs. Let's get his confidence up and moving so we get into manageable third downs and get him where it's just not a drop back passing situation where we're down in this game and we have to throw the ball 40 times to win. I don't think the recipe for success for Gunners like that and for Georgia football, period. Like we did last week with Trevor Etienne, man, let's run the football. Let's dominate the line of scrimmage. And it really doesn't matter what they're going to do because they can't stop us.
Jake, I really appreciate your thoughts on all this because obviously the players involved better and the situation better because of what you do as a quarterback. So thanks for sharing that insight for us today as part of a Kroger Fresh Take. We appreciate your time. We'll look for the chance to speak to you soon.
Brandon, thank you. Thank you for having me.